What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video and welcome back to another episode of positional previews for the New York Giants. Now today we're talking about cornerbacks, and this has been one of the most improved positions on the Giants roster this offseason. Now last year the Giants were coming in with a terrible cornerback core. I mean, it was bad. We're talking about Janoris Jenkins, who's all right, Eli Apple, who has had his struggles but was nowhere near where he should be. We also had B.W. Webb. B.W. Webb was starting for us. And then we also had Grant Haley and Antonio Hamilton and guys like that. I mean, that was pretty much our cornerback core right there because we lost Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, and we didn't know what to do from there. But as you guys know, the Giants drafted 3 cornerbacks in this past draft. We'll showcase them in just a second. But up first, let's talk about our best corner right now, and that is Janoris Jackrabbit Jenkins. Now, Janoris Jenkins, if you guys look at his stats, has actually had a very good career, even with the Giants, even going back with the Rams, had a fantastic rookie season. And from there on, I mean, he has been pretty consistent throughout his career. I honestly think he is not a lazy player, but he's an unmotivated player. I honestly think he will actually put his 100% effort into the game when the rest of the team is doing well. I caught this pattern back in 2015. I believe that was his first season with us, if I'm not mistaken, and he played like a top 5 cornerback when we had that great defense in 2016 and we made the playoffs. The whole team as a whole played well. But then you looked at a total turnaround in 2017, in which I believe we went somewhere around 5-11 or something like that. Then you look at 2017 when the Giants took a huge nosedive and went 3-13. You guys know that was the year with the whole Ben McAdoo situation and debacle and things like that. Janoris Jenkins was one of the guys who had completely fallen off the cliff and didn't really play. It looked like on purpose, like we all knew on purpose, Janoris Jenkins was flopping and he was missing tackles on purpose to try to send a message to Ben McAdoo and the front office. But even so, the team was terrible, therefore he played terrible. When the team plays well, he plays well. You look at towards the end of the season last year and this recent year, Janoris Jenkins actually played pretty well last year towards the end of the year. Why? Because the Giants were actually starting to do something. The only time Janoris Jenkins really comes out to play is when the Giants as a whole are doing well. So that being said, Janoris Jenkins' production for this team is going to rely on the rest of the team. That being said, either way, he's still probably going to be our best cornerback on the roster should DeAndre Baker really develop faster than we expect, and he really takes a step forward in his rookie season. But I predicted that Janoris Jenkins will have his typical 2 to 3 interceptions, nothing more than that. Couple, maybe 60-70 tackles, something like that, and I think he'll play well. Then we move on to Sam Beal. Now we have a little bit of a Ben Simmons situation from the Philadelphia 76ers with Sam Beal, in the aspects that Sam Beal is coming off of his rookie season in which he tore his shoulder or something like that. He hurt his shoulder. He had to miss all of his rookie season before he even played a snap as a New York Giant and even a preseason game. I mean, his first day of practice, he had that injury and he had to be put on IR. So it's similar to Ben Simmons. You could kind of say that his second year is more like his rookie season. So we haven't seen anything from Sam Beal yet on the NFL level, but during his collegiate career, a lot of people were saying that he could have been a first to second round pick. We wound up getting a third round supplemental pick for him. We don't even know what we're going to get from Sam Beal yet, but he was named as the starter in practice, but DeAndre Baker wound up taking some first team snaps from him towards the end of minicamp and OTA, so we'll see how that competition goes around, but right now he's competing with DeAndre Baker. Next up, we have DeAndre Baker. Now shout out to DeAndre Baker, switching from 35 to 27, joining this 27 squad. By the way, if you want to be just like DeAndre Baker, make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to join the 27 squad. DeAndre Baker did it, and you should too. Now let's talk in seriousness about DeAndre Baker. I'm very excited for Baker. Now, you guys know he's coming off of a pretty good season, I say so myself, pretty good season with Georgia, in which he won the Jim Thorpe Award, which is kind of like the MVP for defensive backs, if you guys didn't know. But even so, he was the first cornerback taking taken in this year's draft all the way at 30th overall, which I think is still mind-boggling. But even so, I probably would have taken Byron Murphy instead of DeAndre Baker, but I could see the Giants' mindset here. He was the most balanced cornerback out of any of the cornerbacks in that draft. You look at Byron Murphy, he's more of a cover 3 zone corner who could play some man, could play some press, but we really haven't seen much of that. And then you look at Greedy Williams, who was drafted later in the second round, who is more of a man corner. So you could say DeAndre Baker is kind of a mixture of both. Now, he's a lanky corner, very strong corner. He's not really much of a ball hawk, but he does track the ball extremely well. You're not going to see him get tons of amount of interceptions. You're not going to see him be, another, Richard Sherman back in the day where he was just picking balls off. You're not going to see that from DeAndre Baker, but he will play the ball in the air. He will bat it down, and should those receivers not be too fast, he should stick to them like glue. He plays very good press man. Now, he's a little overrated with the press man, I'll be honest. A lot of people are saying, oh my god, this press man is amazing. It's not fantastic. He still gets beat on press, and he still tries, but I think what people like to see is that those lanky arms is sticking to that wide receiver. That's what you want to see in your cornerbacks, that kind of structure. And as you guys know, DeAndre Baker hasn't allowed a touchdown in his collegiate career when he was playing with the Georgia Bulldogs for 2 years. 2 years. Why did I go like this? 2 years of not allowing a receiving touchdown. So you look at DeAndre Baker, and I watched this film. I mean, he had some takeover tape is what I like to call takeover tape, where you are the reason why that team won the game, where you jumped off the screen. I call that takeover tape. He had 1 or 2 games that were takeover tape, but I just love what I see from DeAndre Baker. Extremely gritty, a lot of high motor, but my only downside to DeAndre Baker is that he cannot handle extremely fast wide receivers. I'm very scared that somebody like a Calvin Ridley lines up in the outside, and DeAndre Baker is forced to deal with him. One inside crosser, one deep crosser, or one deep post route is going to kill DeAndre Baker. What I really saw DeAndre Baker struggle on was the drag routes, was those shallow crossers, the one where you just go 5 yards and then the wide receiver just runs across the field as fast as they can. That's what I really saw him struggle on. I mean, I saw it on almost every single game. There was a wide receiver doing that. You look at Marquise Brown when they played Oklahoma a couple of years ago. I believe that was when Baker Mayfield was still there, so that's 2017, I want to say. So looking back to that game, DeAndre Baker really struggled with Marquise Brown. He's going to wind up being the starter. Like I said, he's been taking those first team reps late in minicamp and OTA, so he's starting to find his own there in the Giants roster. We then move on to Julian Love, J-Love, number 37 from Notre Dame. Now, right off the bat, this guy is going to be a vocal leader on this defense and for the defensive backs. Just by watching his interviews and watching other interviews about him, all I hear are leadership and vocal traits from Julian Love. You just see the boldness that he has in his interviews. You just see the leadership role that he is taking. He's not afraid to take that leadership role, to be vocal on the defense, even as a rookie. All that being aside, as far as his intangibles go, we talk about his actual talent. And listen, this is a guy that was the runner-up for the Jim Thorpe Award, right behind DeAndre Baker, who is now his teammate. He was drafted in the 4th round. I mean, what a steal that is. You had other guys that were drafted ahead of him, like that one clown cornerback that was drafted in the 2nd round over Julian Love. I mean, there were a bunch of cornerbacks. Lonnie Johnson from Kentucky was drafted over Julian Love. I mean, that's insane. So all that being said, I am very happy that Julian Love is a New York Giant. Now, I see him more playing the slot role. That's just me. A lot of analysts also think that he is more of a slot corner. Now, he didn't play too much slot corner in college, but just by seeing the way he plays, just by seeing his stature, I think he's more suited for the slot role, and it's perfect for what the Giants need right now. Now, the Giants came out and said that they want to work him out at safety. I think they're going to work him out there, and ultimately they're going to put him in the slot. I don't envision him being a safety at any level. I think he can be a good safety because I think he's just that much of a good player and that much of a good defensive back. But if you really want to utilize his skill set, you got to put him in the slot. We then move on to our starting slot corner, and that is Grant Haley, the undrafted free agent last year out of Penn State. Now, Grant Haley was showing his development last season. We were able to grow with Grant Haley pretty much. In the preseason, he made some plays, but we saw him struggling. During the regular season, when he did play, we had a lot of injuries on that cornerback core last year, and so we saw a lot of Grant Haley, and there were times where like, great job, Grant Haley, and there are other times where like, God dang it, Grant Haley. So a lot of people have their mixed opinions on Grant Haley, but this year, coming into minicamp and OTAs, he has been announced as the starting slot corner, and he hasn't given any reason for the Giants coaches to bench Grant Haley and put in Julian Love. So that's why you haven't seen Julian Love taking first team reps, because Grant Haley hasn't allowed an inch. So to me, that's very good. That's a very good sign. That's a healthy competition I want to see. That is a good problem you want to have, where you don't even know who to put at starter yet because they're all playing so well. That means either way, you're going to get some great depth. So I'm very excited to see what Grant Haley is going to put out there during the preseason. Very excited to see that cornerback battle, that slot nickel corner battle between Julian Love and Grant Haley. Whoever wins, we're going to get a fine dime corner. So very excited about that. We then move on to Ballentine, who was our third cornerback that we selected. This time in the 6th round. Now, a lot of draft analysts during the draft, especially late during the draft, they were all talking about Ballentine and how he was one of their best players still on the board. They can't wait to see where he goes and this and that. I don't think anybody would have thought he would have went to the Giants after they selected 2 other cornerbacks, but this guy is a special teams standout. We're talking about, I believe he blocked 3 field goals. I mean, there are certain players who haven't even blocked a field goal in their entire lives that are decent special teams players. This guy has blocked like 3 freaking field goals in his collegiate career. So I'm expecting him to at least do something, be a threat in the special teams aspect of things next year, whether that be a gunner or blocking, trying to block kicks on special teams. But with that being said, not only is a good special teams player, but he's also a good skill position player at cornerback. He was a very, very underrated player because he's coming from a small school, hasn't played too much football in general, but he's just naturally gifted with the ability to cover. And so if you just watch him on tape, you can see that he does jump out the screen for you. As far as that whole, the whole competition goes, I mean, he plays really well, and especially in practice after he's coming off that injury. As you guys know, he was shot. Unfortunately, his friend was killed, but he survived, and he was shot, and he was going through that whole recovery process, and he wound up actually practicing for the New York Giants. And due to some people who weren't playing, I believe Sam Beal wasn't able to come due to some personal reasons to practice. It bumped Corey Ballentine up the roster, and he actually played pretty well for the Giants. I think he got bumped up to the second team, and he actually played pretty well. He even defended a pass in the end zone. So played pretty well there, Corey Ballentine did, and I'm very excited to see what we're going to get from him as a depth cornerback. We then move on to Tony Lippett. Now, the former Miami Dolphin is looking to make this roster. I don't think Tony Lippett is really going to start for us in any way, but he's going to add fantastic depth and add another level of talent towards the bottom of this depth chart. I mean, this depth chart is full of talented players. Tony Lippett, drafted in the 5th round a couple years ago out of by the Miami Dolphins, and played pretty well there, and hasn't shown too much with us yet, just because he hasn't played too much with us yet, but I believe he'll be able to do just fine there, and I think he will have a role on this defense. We then move on to Antonio Hamilton. Now, he's a really far down depth cornerback. We've only seen a little bit of him playing cornerback last season because of all the injuries and things like that, but he is a special team standout, and if he makes the roster, that's pretty much where you're going to see from Antonio Hamilton moving forward. We then move on to Ronald Zamort. This guy has, I believe, 1 or 2 interceptions so far in practice, and he has had a long history with the Arizona Cardinals, dating all the way back to 2016, of just constantly being signed and waived, and then injured. And so, he's had a long history with the Arizona Cardinals, but now he's with the Giants. He was signed to the practice squad in October last year, and he's looking to make the roster this year. Now, he hasn't shown too much yet. I believe the only interceptions he had were batted passes, so he was at the right place at the right time. So I want to see more from Ronald Zamort, but there's so much talent on this roster. It's really going to be hard to crack it at this point. He has to really blow us away in order to make the roster. Next up, we have Henre Tolliver. Now, nobody knew Henre Tolliver's name until the AAF, where he was playing with the Salt Lake Stallions. Now, he wasn't the best cornerback in the AAF, not by a long shot. There were a couple guys, by my team, the Orlando Apollos, Keith Reeser, and then you look at the Burlington Iron. There was another guy, something like Jamar Summers, something like that. There were a bunch of cornerbacks in the AAF that played well, but Henre Tolliver wound up landing it to us. He wasn't spectacular, but his name was called a couple times in a good way for the AAF, so I'm excited to see what he's going to put out. I don't think he's going to make the roster at any point, but he may make the practice squad. I don't know, but there's only so many people you can put on the practice squad. With just 10 people you can, so I don't even know he makes the practice squad, but he's another guy that has some talent. And last but not least, we have Tenny Adewusi. This is another undrafted free agent we got out of Delaware, I believe. That if you look at his tape, he shows the perfect amount of aggression and annoyance that annoyance on the wide receivers. When you become a fly, that annoying fly to the wide receiver, that's definitely a very good trait to have with cornerbacks. You look at Richard Sherman, and back in his glory days, Richard Sherman, he was just constantly putting his hand on the wide receivers, getting them off their balance and getting them off their routes and just ruining their timing. That's what I see from Tenny Adewusi. He's just very aggressive in that sort of way. He's a passionate player, and I'd be shocked if he make this roster, to be honest, but he does give a fair shot, just like any of these other guys. So let me give you guys my own depth chart before the Giants make their own, and it's pretty interesting. It's just a great situation to have right now. I'm so excited for this cornerback core. So we're gonna have Janoris Jenkins, DeAndre Baker, Sam Beal, Julian Love, Grant Haley, and Corey Ballentine. Now, it's some tough cuts. Tony Lippett is another guy that can make this roster. Antonio Hamilton adds to the special teams, but there's just too much talent on this cornerback core. That means it's also the end of the road for Ronald Zamort, Henre Tolliver, Zamort. I don't know why I keep saying Zamort. Zamort, Henre Tolliver, Tenny Adewusi. Oh yeah, and Tenny Adewusi. So those 4 guys, so sorry, but or 5 guys, so sorry, but end of the road. If you look at my depth chart that I have here, we have 5 out of 6 players that are rookie or second-year players. I mean, you look at DeAndre Baker, Julian Love, Corey Ballentine, rookies. And then and Sam Beal and Grant Haley are second-year players. And you could argue Sam Beal is a rookie. So, and then besides Janoris Jenkins, who is just at 30 years old right now, I mean, you're looking at a very young cornerback core, and that I'm so excited about. So much talent on this cornerback core, very young as well. So, I'm very excited to see what these guys are going to do in the future. So, that's it, guys. That is the cornerback preview for the New York Giants. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new to join the 27 squad. And I'll see you guys in the next video.